Hello, everyone. I have been able to watch the second part of Harry and Meghan on Netflix, trying to break down from an acting perspective the moments that were credible and all of the moments that were not credible with these two characters, as I like to call them. Because if they were characters in a different story, they would have to justify all their scenarios, all of the statements, the way they're going about telling their story, the same that they have done in the first 3 episodes, is pretty much without any kind of justification. The story, if told by anybody else, would not be watched. It wouldn't have an audience. Because when you're telling a story needs to have the protagonist and the villain. In theirs, Meghan and Harry are the two protagonists. It's not just one, which usually has to happen in storytelling. They both want the limelight. And most of the scenarios come out as Meghan, the winner. The villain, they have everybody outside themselves. There's no conflict, there's no drama ever between the two of them. They want to portray an image of the two of them, which is perfect, unbelievable to begin with, because there's no such thing on the planet where everyone has a perfect relationship and everyone is happy and at peace with their new life in California. But all the statements that they make and all of the behavior that they show throughout this docuseries reveals that they are angry, they are frustrated by all the outside happenings, everything that's happening in the world, from the royals to the media to political issues. All the villains in their story, all of them want to attack them. All of them want to take them down. When you have a story such as that, when you have such a grand opinion about who you are, then you should call that story a fantastical story. You should give the audiences from the trailers a warning that they will be watching something that is not believable. If you put it under the title of docu-reality series, the documentary part will inform the audience, people like me, that it's going to be the truth of the two protagonists, Harry and Meghan. From the beginning, the premise of the story is already false. You're wanting the audience to be stupid, unaware of what credible statements and credible behavior is, and go along with the story that you are putting out there, which is fantastical. And this, I'm being nice about it. Fantastical is not even the word, because I don't even know if they're capable of doing that. To create a fantastical story, you have to have imagination, and I do believe that they're lacking imagination. They need to have other people to talk about. If they were impressive individually and together in what they call this perfect love story, people would react to that with so much more enthusiasm and with so much more optimism. They don't have any of that as characters. It is very hard to watch. There's no charm in the way they're telling the story. There's no believable statements supported by evidence. There are no believable behaviors supported by evidence again. If actors are responsible to justify everything they do in front of the camera when portraying fictional characters, what's very confusing to me is that these two people, Harry and Meghan, are given the platform by Netflix and are not being held to the same responsibility. They do not have to be responsible with evidence in making the statements and in telling the story in the way that any other actor in a fictional scenario would be held responsible to tell the story. It has to do with the fact that they are linked to the titles given to them by the royals, Duke and Duchess, which they say they don't care about, but at the same time, they want to keep them. The reason why they want to keep the titles Duke and Duchess goes back to what I was saying in the first 3 episodes, in the commentary that I made about the first 3 episodes, is because they want to maintain their identity. They want to be relevant So they would be on this platform that the titles afforded them to be on, so they can be relevant to their so-called friends in Hollywood, which are the A-list celebrities. I have to tell you, I'm not going to be able to go moment by moment from the beginning to the end of the last 3 episodes because it's so hard to do that. There's so much confusion. They contradict themselves from one moment to the next, from one episode to the next. What I can tell you from what I observed as an acting coach is that the only believable moment with both Harry and Meghan, to me, are the moments where you can see their ecstasy over the fact that Beyonce just sent a message spontaneously, and Meghan was so surprised by it. She immediately told Harry, Beyonce just sent a message to congratulate her for the courage that she has to heal generational curses, that she was the selected one to be able to heal the world and provide the world with so much compassion. And Harry says, oh, Beyonce called. Oh my God. Oh my God. Those reactions that they have in those moments with Beyonce, where they're so proud to be associated with Beyonce. My question to that is, why did you not call Meghan before she was married to Prince Harry? If she was an activist since the time that she was 11 years old with the soap activism act that she did, being an activist from before the time that she met Harry, I'm just questioning why Beyonce did not have the same impression of her before she became Duchess. So my question would be that if she were working on a character that I was working on with her, we have to go to the backstory of who you are for the present to be concrete and to be stable and to have the evidence for the character. If you're trying to erase the backstory of who you are, then it's very difficult for people, for the audience, to create credible atmosphere around you and to believe you. If you are erasing your background as a character, if you're trying to put into the darkness the backstory that had made you who you are today, which is trying to do so hard by leaving the family from both sides, not just the father's side, but also Doria's. She hasn't invited anybody to the wedding from Doria's side of the family. There's nobody else except for Doria. Where does Doria come from? Who are the people from Doria's side of the family? The reason why she's trying to put behind the curtain all the people that she does not want to be associated with her, because she's trying to convince Prince Harry that she was something else from before she met him. She was trying to create a so-called character of herself to be on a platform that was so much higher than the platform that she was actually on. She's one of those people that cannot accept the reality of what is, because she's lived in scenarios made by herself, presenting an image of who she is that was not reality. It was based in her dreamlike fantasy. It's okay to have dreamlike fantasies. It's okay to want to have ambition. It's okay to want to get to a different level in your life, and you want to evolve and you want to change as a human being. You cannot give up the backstory. You cannot allow the personal backstory, and the people that were there to support you, were there to make you who you have become in the present. You give those up, trying to erase them from your life. It's almost as if the character just jumps up on page 30 and you're not reading the first 29 pages because the character has decided to erase the past. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't work that way. If I were to write the story and I would leave the character's first 29 pages out, and I would give this story to somebody to make it into a film or to put it on a theatrical stage, they would say, we need to know the backstory. We need to know the background of the character. The character cannot just appear on page 30. She wants to just appear on page 30. In her case, she wants to just appear on page 70, page 75, because she wasn't in her 20s when she met Harry. So she's had a life, she's had her struggles, she's had her collapses of marriage before Harry, she's had her life with her father. She wants to erase all of that because she wants to pop up as a character on page 75 the chapter, after many years of trying, she lands Prince Harry. So she wants to come into the royal family at the same equal level of Prince Harry. Why would anybody want to do that as a character? Why, if I were to analyze and break down a character? Because you have so much insecurity about who you are, and there's nothing wrong with having insecurities. I think insecurities and feeling that we always have to grow and we always have to learn, and acknowledging the past that we come from, gives us the understanding and the connection with the rest of our humanity, with the rest of the human beings out there, no matter where they are from, no matter the culture, the background, because we as people will never attain a perfect feeling of satisfaction about who we are. There's always going to be insecurities, and those are what keep us grounded, to be able to relate to everybody else in the world, because I don't think there's anybody out there who doesn't have insecurity, no matter the position, no matter the status, no matter the monetary success or any other success. I think for her to be in denial of who she was and for her to erase her past and backstory is what makes her so unbelievable. Imagine if you were to read a novel and you picked up the book, pages are left empty because somebody decided to erase that backstory of who they were. And then you start to get to know who that person was in the moment where she felt that she was at the point where she always wanted to be in her life. That in her mind made her relevant to the A-listers in Hollywood who for the first time accepted the invitation to go to her wedding. Tyler Perry is another A-list celebrity from Hollywood who reached out to her after she was married to Prince Harry again, very supportive, and wanted her to know that he was going to be there for her and Harry to help in any way that he can. You've been in this business for such a long time. Why did you not reach out to her before she married Prince Harry? She's been around for a very long time before page 75. Why did you not consider her to be an extraordinary human being whom you applaud? You applauded her, you say in the series, you applauded her for what she stands for. Well, if you applauded her for what she stands for, why did you not applaud her for what she stood for before she became Duchess? Why did you not offer her your house, your mansion, where you wanted them to be free and to be able to love each other, as if they couldn't be free and they couldn't really love each other in England? You offered your mansion in Hollywood because you wanted them to be free and you wanted them to be able to love. Why didn't you offer that to her when she most needed, when she was struggling to become an A-lister like you? Why did you not give her a role, knowing how difficult it is for actors to become employed all the time? Outside of the Suits, the cable series that she did, and that was at the end, when she was able to catch Prince Harry, she didn't have too many roles that she could depend on financially. Why did you not reach out to her and applaud her then? I'm just having questions that I would have as the character, as an acting coach. I would have all these questions because there remain too many gaps in the story. And if the story was told by anybody else that was not associated with the royals, it wouldn't be shown publicly. There are missing parts to it. Somebody like Tyler Perry say, I applaud you for everything you stand for. I applaud you for being courageous and brave, for wanting to just be free and love. Do you know how many people want to be free and love and they don't have the opportunities that you have offered them? In this one moment where they take the plane and they leave England, and Harry films himself and he says, freedom flight, freedom flight. Are you kidding me? You're on a freedom flight. Most of the time when they're talking about running away from the monsters, running away from the villains, they were trying to tear them down and put them in a cage. She was fed to the animals. She wasn't just thrown to the lions. She was fed to the lions. While they're filming themselves, they're journaling every moment that puts them in a good light. One of them being on the private jet with Grandma Doria, as Harry likes to call her, running away to freedom, running away. When somebody uses words as running away, I was fed to the lions, I was fed to whatever she was fed to. They use words as running. We had to run. I said to Meghan, we have to get the hell out of here. We gotta get out of here. This is too dangerous. And then they get on a private jet. It just doesn't make sense to an ordinary person, to an audience member who's watching the show. People are out there who are running for their life, and they're not running in a private jet. It's just too much, the hypocrisy, and it's just too much the storytelling, manipulation in the storytelling. Meghan calling herself an organism, streaming in the other direction than the rest of the fish. So she calls herself an organism that came into the river that was very calm and everything was wonderful, meaning that's the royal family. Everything was okay. Everything was just standard. And then there comes this organism, which she compares herself to, and she's streaming the opposite direction. So she comes in and she creates conflict. And then she makes a squeaking sound like, an organism is a parasite. A parasite is someone that lives off of somebody else's blood. So I don't know if she wanted to go into that part of the definition of what an organism is. And this shows you from this very introduction into the second part of Harry and Meghan show on Netflix. This is exactly how the whole thing is going to be like. They only want to portray parts that are going to put them in a great image, in a great light. They are trying to put everybody else in a horrible, horrific, horrid light. They have footage, they have diaries, they have video diaries, they have blogging, whatever you call all of these, for portraying one side of the story, which is their side of the story, in their perfect world as they want to present it to us. When it comes to actually giving us the evidence and the footage for the rest of the story, when they portray the other people as the villains, they don't have anything. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. You yourself have to present yourself as a full out character. You can't present yourself as a portrayal of a one-dimensional human being, because none of that exists in the world. You cannot portray yourself as being the perfect human beings who have done no wrong, only show that footage of that image of you. But then when it comes to the rest of the bad stuff that you're talking about, when it has to do with the other people, with the royals, when it has to do with the media, when it has to do with the press, when it has to do with everybody else that were going after you to destroy you, you have no footage or you have no evidence. So organism going up the stream when all the fish, everybody else were going calmly, and she came into the stream, she came into the river, and she disturbed what was happening because she came in a secondary role in the monarchy. She became the wife to the spare of Prince William, which is the heir. If you were to look at an actor, or if you were to look at a character, she went after Prince Harry and she hunted him down and she got him. She knew that she was going to be getting a second role. She was going to be a supporting role to the principal roles in the royal family. When she got there, because she sees herself as this bigger than life character, raises her backstory of her humble beginnings, which in anybody else's situation, they would be so proud to have come from an ordinary backstory, as most of us would identify with, to have gotten to the level where she is right now. They would be so proud of their achievements, but she's so embarrassed and she's so ashamed. They use words as shame and embarrassed in so many other situations. They're wanting to disparage all the other people who have done them wrong, but they never talk about themselves being ashamed. They never talk about themselves being upset with themselves. It's always when it comes to other people, because they know that words like ashamed, horrific, bullied, racism will provoke a lot of emotions in a lot of people. So she's hired as a character that's going to play a secondary role. She accepts it. She goes into the whole institution as if she were going into a show, because I'm kind of making the comparison between that and a show and a character. And then all of a sudden she wants to go to the director of the institution, and she wants to take the principal characters who already have the roles and have been born into those roles. She wants to knock them off to take their part. Harry says it was very difficult for the royal members to accept someone that was coming in as a secondary role, and then she proved herself to be, or they proved themselves to be, doing the job of a principal role better than those who were born into it. It's always about the roles. It's always about the platform. It's always wanting to be on a different platform than accepting that you are satisfied and grateful and privileged for the platform that you already have. And then the music. Every time they go with the music, when it comes to their portraying them in this fabulous light, they're talking about the church. And of course, beautiful royal wedding where she asked Prince, now King Charles, to walk her down the first part of the aisle going to the altar to meet Prince Harry. Why did she have to ask Prince Charles? If he was such a horrible human being, why would you want to do that? If you're the activist that you say you are, why did you not want Doria? Because you have Doria in the series and you talk about your mom as someone that you've had a wonderful relationship with. She's trying to save some of the moments that I'm going to speak about, just wait later. Why didn't you have Doria walk you down? Where was Doria's family? There's a lot of talk about the Markles as being the horrible people who have tried to make money from the tabloids by revealing of who Meghan was when she's doing exactly the same thing with him on this Netflix. If your character is one that is portraying to be an activist, as you are portraying yourself to be, feminist, activist, when you want Doria, amazing mom that you talk so highly of, bravo to you that you do that and you have that relationship with her. Why wouldn't you want to give her that opportunity? You decided to ask King Charles to walk you down. You know, people that you invited there, the A-lister celebrities who were there, had to see you in the light, beginning with you and your character being on page 75, putting Doria to the side, having Prince Charles at that time walk you down, as if you were always part of that level of status. I am Diana's boy. Harry goes on to say in the second part, which he keeps saying in the first part, I am Diana's boy. I think his issues with his mom, the little child and his wound because of her death, and I talk about it in the first part of the 3 episodes, that was so traumatic for him, and I don't think that it's been resolved. I don't want to say this, but again, I'm analyzing characters to recognize what behavior we should have to make credible characters become human beings. She being at the same age when she married him that Princess Diana passed, there's something that she's taken advantage of there with him. You can see from a lot of the scenarios that they present, putting a lot of fear into him. Acknowledge that the past is the past and we should do something about it. We should maybe see a professional. Since she's also talking about the fact that she was suicidal, these are just so fragile statements that both of them are making about the traumatic experiences. There's no doing anything about it. There's no support from one to the other and vice versa to help each other to come out of that. They talk about it, but there's nothing that goes on to be resolved. Putting out statements that are so fragile about trauma over my mom's death and I felt suicidal. You would then try to see what can we do? What are the characters going to do to be able to achieve the goal of making themselves feel better? Do we get in touch with a professional? Do we get in touch with a psychiatrist? If the institution, as you say, did not want to help, if you, Harry, did not know how to help Meghan, why wasn't Doria, who's a social worker, having so many contacts with a lot of people like Tyler Perry or Oprah or Beyonce, who were there to give her the support that she needed? I don't understand why she would not ask for that support, or why we have no evidence of that in the so-called reality show. Where is that? If I have somebody like Tyler Perry call me during my period of depression, would that ever happen? Would anybody ever call me when I am courageous enough to reveal my story of being depressed and suicidal, because I was at a point in my life. I don't have that opportunity. I don't have that privilege. I don't have that option to give a call to one of the A-listers and ask them to provide for me the help that I need. You know what happens in most ordinary lives of people like me when they go through something like that? What I did in my personal experience, to share my personal experiences because I want to show you where I'm coming from in the way that I'm trying to analyze the psychology of another character. When this happened to me, I remember having to write down everything written down about that period in my life because it was so scary, and I was trying to figure out a way out of it on my own. I didn't have anybody here physically in the location where I'm at. The one person that I was calling almost every day was my father. So I was talking to him on the phone, but that wasn't sufficient. And then I was writing things down of how I felt. Then the next thing, with the help of my dad and the conversations that we had, the next thing was I need to get professional help. In my search to get professional help, it was very difficult because I didn't have the monetary means to be able to just find somebody online and say, oh, it doesn't matter how much a session costs, to talk to somebody to ask for the help of a professional psychiatrist. I had to deal with, let me find somebody who's going to be covered by my insurance. Is my insurance, my medical insurance, going to cover that? I mean, the fact that you say that you're part of the royal family, you have Prince Harry, who from his past, together with Princess Catherine and his brother, Prince William, have talked about issues, have talked about trying to speak up about the fact that there's so many people who are dealing with so many mental issues in this world, with the real problems that are going on. You felt suicidal and there was nobody there for you to help you. Between Prince Harry, between Tyler Perry, Beyonce, Oprah, your mother who's a social worker, since you have a letter that you've written for every moment that you want to portray yourself in a good light, you have a letter, you have a document, you have a camera shot, but you don't have anything to do with these very fragile and very sensible statements that you're making. I would just be so careful about that. There are really people out there, as I gave the example, who have so much more to worry about and trying to find a solution of how they can help themselves to come out of that state of depression. That made me really sad because it brought me back to that time in my life when I was dealing with that. So it triggered me having all these opportunities of help around you. And it just triggered me to go back to that period in my life. And as I think about it right now, it was not easy. The music, going to the chapel and we're gonna get married, going to the chapel, love, love. I love that every time they play a song, it's so obvious to what the scene is, giving us, the spectators, the manipulative sound effects, sound of music to go with their statements, because if we do not believe their statements to be true, the music on top of it is going to manipulate with our emotions. Lovely music. And then when it goes to the characters of the villains, the royals and the media, and they play a different kind of music to give us that like scary feeling of, oh my God. Best choir, the people from all the best choirs were put together for the wedding by Prince Charles. I wanted to say something about that, you know, as actors, people who are artists, because I consider singers and choir singers to be artists, to think of them as being brought together from all parts of the world to make this team to be the best of all the choir singers. If you are or consider yourself to have been an actress, when do you choose to speak about something in a negative way, and when do you choose to speak about something in a positive way? So I would say there's a character that doesn't have any believable truth that they stand by. Everything changes from when it suits them. Suits, as in Suits, the cable show that she was on that was coming to an end when she met and married Prince Harry. She knew she wasn't going to get another role. Whenever it suits her, she puts everything in a beautiful light. And then whenever it doesn't suit her, suits again. Oh my God, there's so much. I can't believe that I'm doing this and I'm never going to finish. This is crazy. There's a Craig Ferguson. There was this late talk show, Craig Ferguson. Meghan was on when she was actually doing the Suits, Rachel playing character. And if you guys watch that, I'm going to try to find the link of it. If you see her behavior with him, where she speaks with a normal voice, she doesn't go to this different voice. She's the character with her life in those pages that now she's trying to erase herself from. Then she is completely the true, real Meghan Markle in that interview before she had the confidence that she has now, together with Prince Harry, to come up with this story. When you see her in this interview, you will see the real Meghan Markle. She talks about her father. She talks about how he was there to help her. She talks about the fact that he was a director of photography on the famous show, Married with Children. And she spent 10 years on that set after school. She was flirting with Craig. She was Meghan. She was the real Meghan, because that's what real people do. They're complex characters. They have fears. They have moments of laughter when they don't feel like they want to laugh. They have moments of insecurities. They have moments of greatness. That's where she was herself. Now she's trying to portray this one-dimensional character, cardboard of a character, where she's very classy and she's very elegant because she's always been part of this A-list group of people in the United States of America, of Hollywood. Oh, how come she never talks about her first wedding? She talks about this love story as if it's happening between two teenagers, but she never talks about the fact that she was married before. What did that teach you? If you are a character in a story, then the learnings and the experiences that you had before, prior to what the present situation is that you have right now, that will be something that you will go back to try to learn things from. You know, she wants us to believe her life began when she met Prince Harry, and she was an A-lister, which she was never one. She's not one right now. She's associating herself with A-listers because they associate themselves with her now, but they never associated with her before she became Duchess. So she goes to sing a song, and she tries to show how she's such an authentic human being and organic and instinctual in the moment. If you're going to sing a song, if you're going to dance, there's another part attempting to dance in the frame of a door, and she does these like moves, but she only goes halfway because she's always observing herself. She's always observing herself to portray a perfect human being, which she is not, because nobody is. We are getting to see half a human. That's why we do not relate to what she's saying. And that's why what she's saying is not credible, because she's giving us a one-dimensional character, which nobody is. So she goes for the music, but she doesn't get into it because she doesn't want to reflect any of the imperfections that we all have, when we would welcome that, because we all have imperfections, and that would be something that we would all identify with. Oh, it's okay to do it. It's fine to do it. She holds everything back as she does with everything else, as she goes into this little girl's voice, as if she's not 40 years old, you know? Oh, and then they go into the Nottingham cottage, which they were living in. And the only thing that I have to say about this, because everybody else has talked about how dare they don't appreciate the fact they are living on the palace grounds. To me, what was so relevant about characters, again, observing them, it's when it comes to the, as a matter of fact, way of speaking between each other. Oh, do you remember we were living in Nottingham Cottage and Oprah stopped by for tea? Oprah, do you remember? Do you remember Oprah? Do you remember Oprah? She stopped by for tea, as if to say they've always been part of the world of Oprah. And Oprah stopping for tea, nothing special. There's nothing special about Oprah stopping by for tea, because that's been my whole life, beginning again on page 75. because I don't have a past. I would have done anything to meet Oprah, and I never did. When I would have done anything, because it would have been of such importance for me to get to Oprah, because she would have provided me the platform that I needed to maybe make it as an actress, even though she wouldn't have made it as an actress. Even now, having all of this support from everybody, nobody's offering her roles to do because she's not an actress. This is what I'm trying to tell you. She's not an actress. So when people associate her acting her way through this docu-reality series, and that's why people are not blaming her for what she's saying as much as they're blaming Harry because she's an actress and she's acting her way through it. There's no such thing. If an actress were acting her way through it, she would have to be responsible. She would have to be responsible for acknowledging her backstory, even if she was ashamed of it. You have to admit it. That's what great actors do. They go back into their personal backstory that will become the repertoire for them to select from when going to play different characters. That's what will make those characters remarkable that we watch and we identify with. And some will change our way of being when walking out of the cinema due to the fact that they accept where they come from and they resolve some of the issues, if they have any, with where they come from through the characters. You don't just erase the past, because if you come at something, if you come to a show like this without a past, nobody believes it, because everybody has a past. You're trying to say that you don't, because it doesn't please you. You should be so proud of it, because you've gotten to a place in your life right now, which is what you wanted, to get to a place of a different platform, of a different status, and you've achieved that. So you should be proud by acknowledging where you come from. Oprah looks around the Nottingham cottage and she says, oh, no one would believe this. No one would believe that you're living in this cottage with such low ceilings. What a problem to have. Oh my God. The problem is that you have to bend down a little bit, because Harry, being so tall and handsome, he has to go down like this. Well, Harry was living there for a long time. I think he would have had enough time to practice to bend down when walking, so he wouldn't hit his head all the time, like she says that he was hitting his head. That's so funny. Why don't you make that moment comic? You have an opportunity now to not put everything in such a negative perspective for us to see it. Here's a moment that you would have understood if you had creativity and if you have any kind of artistry inside of you. You will realize that this is a moment where you can actually allow people to see you as being funny. Oh, we lived in this cottage that was so short, but we were still living on the grounds of the palace. No matter how long Harry has been living there, every time I would watch him, he would hit his head. Why couldn't this be one of those moments where you made your audiences, made someone like me watching laugh, so I don't have to stay watching you for so many hours sad? Why couldn't that be such a beautiful comic moment that you would create out of that? Because nobody can stay with one-sided storytelling. It becomes boring and people would walk out. The only reason we're watching is because we cannot believe that this is actually what's allowed on Netflix. Oh, the trailers are meant to give us preview of what to expect when watching the show. Second trailer, they show a couple of moments. In one of them, she's crying, and the other one is her with her face in her hands, kind of like this. So the implication is that we're going to see Meghan crying in the second part, in the last 3 episodes. So I was looking so forward to it, to see her actually organically be emotional. That would have been such a surprise. If you're going to surprise someone, and if you're going to make revelations, expose, I really wanted her to be authentic. Looking forward to see if she was actually going to master 1 or 2 moments, as I thought, because the trailer was showing me that she was going to have these emotional moments. When the episodes came, the one moment where she actually has to wipe real tears from her face, for one moment, I believed her crying. And I said, okay, this is the first time where I believed her crying came out of something that was relevant and that was truthful inside of her, that was making her emotional. Then when I saw the episode, that result was of a whole session of meditation that her and Harry were doing. It wasn't that she was speaking about something and something spontaneously, instinctively connected her to some truth emotionally and she cried, which is what I thought was going to happen. That's not what happened. She was able to release 1 second of feeling that she is emotionally truthful, but it was due to a very long session of meditation. If I take 10 minutes to do active relaxation with actors, I will guarantee you that they will be crying. Some personal experience will be brought up that will make them cry. The crying doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be because of something said they're experiencing. You can still cry due to something that's being revealed to you in the present, which in the past was a joyful moment. Years later, now that it comes up, the nostalgia of it all, time passing since that moment, will trigger you with the same event that was making you happy in the past to now have tears as a result of remembering it. The fact that she did not have one moment of living truthfully where there was a real emotion that surprised her to produce tears during the 6 hours is again a confirmation that this character does not allow herself to feel. All of the things that she says that she felt, they're not believable because you do not see her feel in the present. You can't talk about the way that I felt when this was being done to me if I see you for 6 hours in the present time without any kind of feelings. Pretend feelings, yes, those pretend feelings don't move me. So I already know that they're not real. She wanted to heal generational curses. She wanted to come into the institution. She wanted to change the traditions. She wanted to modernize tradition. These are what the supporters are saying. There's a moment where she talks about the women, the victims of the fire that happened. She decided to create this cookbook during that with the survivors. When she was approaching these beautiful women, I was acknowledging that they were kissing 3 kisses on both cheeks and then another one. Why was she not backing away from it the same way that she says that she wanted to be free in her expression and she wanted to hug? Yeah, no, she was so available to go with the 3 kisses, respecting the background and the cultures of these women. But at the same time, when it had to do with her having to play a second role and respect the tradition of courting and all of the other ones of the royals, she couldn't deal with that. When she's the principal character in a situation, she doesn't have a problem adapting to the tradition of that scenario. She has a problem adapting to any scenario when she's not the principal role. Seeing the way that she talks in this 6-hour monologue, in a way, she has an easier way of talking in this reality series than she does when she has a dialogue with Harry, because she does not like to be contradicted, interrupted. Her thought, her monologue inside her head is so believable to her for as long as you don't disrupt her. If Harry interrupts her, she turns all of a sudden. That's when it's revealed the character that she has, which is so much more complex. She wants to portray a character that is so simplistic, which she doesn't understand that it puts her in the bad light. People want to see complex characters because we all have complex feelings and expressions and we are complex. When she's having a dialogue with anybody else, she's having a more of a difficult time because she has to give details, bring the evidence to what she's saying. When she's doing a monologue, then she can say whatever she wants. Yeah. Harry mentioning the fact that there's a difference in the way the media was portraying and were representing Meghan in comparison to the other, which I'm assuming he's referring to Princess Catherine. If you don't see that, I can't help you. Well, if you do not see that, I can't help you, Prince Harry, because out of all the people in the royal family and out of all these people that you mention as being racist, the only person that was wearing a jacket that had the Nazi representation on it was you. When you say that you have evolved, Meghan has come into your life and you understand racism. Okay, so the evolvement of you as a human being that happens, you're saying that, which is wonderful. You've grown as a person, you've evolved, you're showing the evolvement. Where are the images when you were younger, before you were an evolved person? Because for everything else in the docuseries, you have images that come with everybody else being a villain. Every time you portray somebody else being a villain, you seem to have a lot of footage. Even if it's not footage that is directly related to that, what you're speaking about, the film is edited in such a way, or footage that's manipulating us into believing, even if it's not directly attached to that, what you're saying, but it's making the audience believe that that's what happened. There's all this darkness, horrible, horrific, tragic, traumatic things when it comes to you showing the evolvement as a human from the racist jacket that you wore as a boy. Why aren't there any pictures of that so we can understand better the evolvement that you had? Let me see where you came from. The backstory that Meghan is erasing goes also for Harry. He's trying to do the same thing. These two people came together from second roles in their lives. They are supporting each other to be able to convince themselves on and on and on and keep telling the same story. If there were two characters that were completely honest with each other, one would tell the other one, we gotta stop. This is too much. We got to stop. Why don't we do something that's positive? Why don't we come up with our own story and leave the story behind? Because we've told it so many times on the Oprah interview. We've been telling it in the magazines. Now I'm going to tell it with my book. Let's do something creative that's going to be new, that's going to be of positive impact to the world. Because you keep saying you want to be compassionate, you want to show your humanity. When are you going to do that? There's no evidence that that's ever going to happen. These two imagining themselves now to be in the principal roles of their story because they've put themselves there by going back to the organism, by sucking the blood out of what put them there, which is their families from both sides, the royals and then Meghan's families, both of them trying to erase those past because they want to believe that they had come to these two principal roles on their own. That's the ego. They don't want to give an ounce of credit for where they are right now, which they think they are the grand leaders of the universe. They don't want to give an ounce of that credit to anyone from their lives prior. Nope, that's not believable. If a character came on stage to do exactly that, or if a movie started with that, people would walk out of it. But I think because they don't know the difference between mediocre acting and great acting, they don't have that capacity to understand what great storytelling is. And Netflix, you would think, would let them know that this story has no drama. They have no story. Talk about unfairness in the world. The rest of the people having an emotional moment. Doria tries to cry also and she's not able to. And then some of the other people, they're calling them friends. But then I heard that some of them are being paid for this or they're being business associates. Whenever somebody tries to cry, they don't have the ability to cry because trying to cry is the thing that's going to stop you from crying. When you're trying to cry, that's actually going to have the opposite effect. It's going to paralyze you from doing it. When you're not trying to cry, that's when you cry. And that's what we do as actors. When I'm working with an actor, if I say to the actor, I want you to cry, automatically he's going to be put in a position where the expectations of what he or she is supposed to do is going to stop him from going there. So you have to work towards it by doing the relaxation, doing the effective memory exercise, emotional recall exercise, which is almost like an active meditation from what they were portraying, without putting that final result on them of expectation of a final result. They will be able to work themselves up to crying because you've never asked them to cry. You will reveal different events from the personal life of the actor and create during a practice many years of training, the entire life of training. You will have all these personal events from your life, imaginary events mixed with the personal events to be your tools at your fingertips to know where to tap into when emotional character is being played. And you have these notes that you can go into. But they don't know how to do any of that because she's never really done acting at a level of what she's trying to portray to us, that she's had a successful career as an actress. And again, there's nothing wrong with not being an actress and not getting to that successful career because it's very difficult. I think her accepting that, many more people would feel that they recognize themselves in her. Oh, there was another thing in the beginning of it, which I have mentioned here, which I talk about it, the facial hair. I feel that Harry has been changed completely, not only emotionally and mentally by the arrival of Meghan in his life, but I feel that he's also been changed physically. I talk about the beard and the facial hair. I have never seen him without it. If you go to my prior video about every detail having to do with my own experience from having one of my ex grow beard and why I did it and how I consider Meghan to have her reasons or wonder why her reasons were. Harry said in one moment in these 3 episodes, it was the first reveal of baby Archie, and he comes out and he says something like, I'm probably paraphrasing because I can't really read my own notes. So he was trying to be funny. And he said he's already got some facial hair, which I thought there's the mention of facial hair again. You know, subtleties in character statements are so important to be paid attention to, which we have to in analysis. And also what other characters say about the main characters, now them to being the main characters in this docu-mockery of their life. What other characters say is very important, but it's not just characters who are taking your side. If you're wanting to create a story that's going to be compelling to the audiences to watch, you have to have the villains that they talk about so much be part of the story. You can't just talk about the villains. It's exposition. If you're just talking about the villains and you're leaving them off, they're not going to appear in the story. That's narration, that's exposition. You're telling me what is without the evidence to show. Active action storytelling is doing action. It's not saying. A story told well is because of the action, because of the practical characters that are representing all different sides and different versions to what the story is. That's what makes it compelling. That's why this is not. It's boring because it's just one-sided. Everything seems like it's pictured for a page of a magazine. The black and white pictures, the way that they are presenting themselves. Meghan sitting on the counter and Harry opposite of her with a white shirt. If you look at the previous pictures of him before he met Meghan, he wasn't paying so much attention to the way that he was dressing. So she's had to bring him appearance-wise to the level of principal character so he can match her, because she's always seen herself as a principal character. So now she's lifting him up rather than admit the truth, which is she's been lifted up due to his status and position and privilege. Why? Yeah. You see them barefoot around the house all the time. It's so funny how they think that's authenticity. Authenticity, originality doesn't have to do with what makes you feel comfortable. They're running around barefoot, original, organic, they want us to believe. Why don't you do something that's completely the opposite? Why don't you try being the traditional couple for the scenarios that you were being asked to be the traditional couple while being part of the royal family? If you would have attempted to take on those challenges and work towards it, that would have made you an authentic, original human being. Authenticity is not doing something that feels comfortable. Authenticity is overcoming challenges in developing yourself in different situations that come to you in your life, especially to you, that come with such great gifts and such great privilege for you to not be able to get rid of the ripped jeans and put shoes on, so to speak, and be part of the traditional, elegant requirement of the royals. You could not do that because they would have taken you to adapt to something that was new. That would have been evolving into something that's original because you're trying to grow as a human being. Harry talks a lot about he's outgrown that past, he's outgrown his family, he's outgrown the environment with the help of Meghan. making him realize everything was horrible in his life. She was on the phone with Tyler Perry. Again, Tyler Perry's calling. He wants to know if we're okay. Do we need anything? Perry says, oh my God, my brother just texted. My brother just texted. The music changes. He goes into this voice and my brother just texted. She gets up. Do you need a hug? Do you need a hug? Already accusing the situation and the text to be something of horrible impact on Harry, who's the brother. They had an amazing relationship as brothers. So she's manipulating, going into this propaganda. Meghan and the propaganda machine. She pretends that she's caring and she wants to give him a hug. But the reverse psychology is, oh my God, she's already making him feel how horrible his brother, Prince William, is by her telling him, Harry, that he might need a hug to be able to deal with this, which automatically makes the situation be a difficult situation because she said so. It's so sad. Instead of her trying to lift him up, it's okay. He's your brother, Harry. Let's not pay attention to all this craziness that's being written about us. They seem to love to go to the social media to find all the threatening messages and the diabolical comments that everybody gets when they get to a position where they wanted to be in, when they are revealing their life in such detail. Then you are going to get bad reviews and you're going to get good reviews. So deal with that. But no, they just bring each other down into the mud. There's a saying, if you're going to play with pigs, the pigs are going to love it, but you're the one that's going to come out dirty, something like that. If everybody's so inferior to your superior status of beings, why are you giving so much importance to what everybody else does or says about you? Why is that so important? If you already know your value, if you already know your worth, then why does it bother you so much? Yeah, I think she's always so composed in the way that she talks and the way that she behaves. So she's always having to portray something else. She's had to convince Harry of her superiority all along. She knew in her being that she would have to reveal the fact that she's just a B-list actress in one cable show. And she is so privileged to have met Prince Harry, to be given this platform. She's not ever going to admit that. She wanted Prince Harry to believe that she was birthed on page 75. And that page 75 is when she met him. Bullied his brother, Prince William, when they're talking about the conversation, the summit, the meeting of how Meghan and Harry wanted to be part royals and part Hollywood A-listers. The reason why they wanted to keep the royal titles is because they wanted to be relevant to the A-listers. That's why they wanted to be remaining halfway into the royal family and then halfway to move to California. That's what they wanted from the beginning. The fact that they're talking about we were supposed to move to South Africa, New Zealand, that's just something that was brought in to make us believe that it was a spontaneous kind of move for them to go to California. Stop, because my characters in my story would not be believed. So why should I believe your character? How dare, Meghan says. How dare, when it is about my life, when the stakes are so high, putting herself in a position that she's not in. By making a statement, she thinks that she's going to make us believe that that's the case. Just because you make a statement doesn't mean that you're going to make the audience believe. But you can continue to do it. And if you do it numerous times, and if you lie numerous times, that's called propaganda. That which is a false statement because you keep repeating it. And as long as you keep repeating it, the lie will seem to some people as the truth. When the stakes were so high, and I, the wife and the mother, was not invited to that meeting. Of course, you were not invited to the meeting because you had already revealed your character to not be a trusting one. If I were to watch this character on a film, I would be scared of that character, really. The character that has exposed herself through a statement that she made, which reveals that she is always wanting to be the principal character in every situation, no matter what the situation is. And she always wants to speak in monologues. She doesn't want to have any dialogue with people because that will assume that she has to respond to questions that will reveal that what her monologue is does not make any sense. Yes. She was left out of the meeting. Harry went. It was so horrific. Prince William yelled and screamed, and the father lied, and the queen just stood there. The poor late queen. My God. That is such a way of describing an event. It kind of assumes that he was abused emotionally, he was lied to. The person that could have done something about it, which was the queen, did absolutely nothing. That is, again, such a slap in the face to those people who don't have the resources, who don't have the money, who don't have the A-listers to be able to get them out of those situations. So even if that happened to you, Harry, that you feel so traumatized from it, guess what? You got yourself out of it. You have the resources, you have the people, you have the Tyler Perry, you have the Oprah, you have the Gail, you have all of these fantastic people that are speaking on your behalf. Not except for Tyler Perry, who's applauding Meghan. Medea is applauding Meghan. Medea is applauding Meghan. Now that she has the title of a duchess, another revelation. He's the godfather of Lilibet, named after the queens, known only by the inner circles name. You're naming your daughter Lilibet, the nickname of your grandmother, who stood there watching this abuse and this bullying that you had to go through. You had to name your daughter Lilibet. You've asked Tyler Perry to become the godfather, and he says, yes. Yes, I would love to become the godfather. Yes, I am there for you no matter what, Harry and Meghan. You can stay here as long as you want. Why not say that to Meghan before, when she was a struggling actress? Why didn't you help her then? Associating yourself with them now. Going to be the godfather of Lilibet. Yes, you are, Tyler Perry. You're going to be the godfather of Lilibet. Only if you know that you do not have to go back for the christening. If the christening is going to happen back in that country with the gray surroundings and the gray buildings versus the sky in California, which is blue, to show again gray, dark characters, light characters. Applaud her. Medea applauding Meghan Markle. Did you applaud her in suits? Did you invite her to do a interview? Or did Oprah? Because I don't know, I haven't seen them. Maybe they're out there, but I haven't seen them. So if anybody knows about any interview that Oprah did with Meghan when she was on Suits, and Tyler Perry as Medea applauded Meghan Markle in Suits, I would like to see it. Oh, how come there are no conversation about anything they're good at? So if you don't want to say anything that's positive about the villains, which are off camera the whole time, you never see the villains, but you see their portrayal of the villains. Why is it that there's no point in the 6 hours? And that's a lot of time. There's a lot of time. So you can't say that the show was only 1 hour and you had no time. Why isn't there any point in your story where you actually tell us what you're good at? What do you do? What do you do? Who are you as characters would be the first question of Stanislavski, which is the father of writing a manual for acting for the first time that actors could go to and read if they had challenges in how to portray characters. So as characters, Meghan and Harry, the first question of Stanislavski would be, who are you? Which you're already denying. Both of you just come up on your last chapter or 75th page of your life where the two of you came together as if this is the only thing that we have to look at because everything else was just irrelevant. Everybody else from before was irrelevant. Then the second question of Stanislavski would be, what do you do? What do you do? I'm asking the question. Yes, I'm listening. What do you do? Not just giving me the title of the prince that has to do with something that you were privileged to be born into. What do you do? What are you good at? Meghan, the same question for you. What are you good at? Because you're not good at being an actress. I would actually start to focus on that for the next time that you want to tell a story, because I don't know how many more times you're going to be able to get people to pay attention to this story. It's remarkable how she happens to have every documentation in her phone. She wants us to believe that is spontaneous, so spontaneously brought up to say, oh, there's something that I just remembered that I wrote. I wrote this beautiful, I think I have it. I wrote this beautiful speech. I don't know if many people know, but in England, the brides are to give a speech. That's one of the traditions. So you accepted that tradition. There wasn't anything that was difficult for you to adapt to give a speech, because that tradition meant that you were in the spotlight. So you were the principal role at the wedding and everybody was going to listen to your monologue again. That you were okay with. And she just takes out her phone and she starts to read this letter. You may think that this letter, I'm just paraphrasing, you may think that this letter is about an actress. No, Meghan, we don't think the letter is about an actress from California. You were a B-list celebrity, so we didn't think that. And you may think that this is about a prince. Yes, he is a prince. So yes, we believe that part. But I'm going to have to tell you that this story is just about a boy and a girl. It's almost like they're going back in time to their teenage years to talk about themselves as if they were meeting for the first time in this innocent first love. You're a man and a woman. Read it to the audience how to demonstrate that she's not even a great actress doing that. One of the first things that actors learn is when they're using a text that's written, you usually look at the page and you take the first line. You might want to know it's there, right? So then you give it to the audience to make eye contact with the cameras, which is the audience in this case. You may think, so you go, you may think that this is a story about, just as an example, to finish this up, she talks about this guy that was on a plane when they were leaving Britain, and the steward, not a pilot, but a steward, he just went next to where she was sitting and knelt. Madam, ma'am, we want to thank you for your sacrifice for our country. We want to thank you for your sacrifice for our country. Who needs to have so much confirmation of her relevance, bringing out all those people all the time that seemingly don't even exist, who have said something that was so extraordinary about her being? It just makes me sad. When the audiences first were put in the face of great acting, having not ever seen great acting before. I'm talking about the beginning of the group theater when acting was changed forever. And then in the 1950s with Marlon Brando, who came out to portray a character with all the complexities of a human being, not just one-sided character, not just the facade of a character, but revealing everything that people have became the new way of acting. And acting was demanding of actors to train, to learn how to reveal all of the good, all of the bad, all of the ugly, and bring that to their characters. At first, when the public saw that, not knowing what to do with it, as with everything in life, if you're being exposed to something great, being that it's the first time that you're exposed to something great, when all of your life you have seen mediocre acting, in this case, you don't know what to do when you're being slapped in the face with someone who is holding up a mirror to you, revealing your humanity, because they have the courage and the bravery to reveal their complex humanity through the characters. You are taken aback. Once you have been relaxed into it and start to appreciate the magnificence of what it is like to portray all of who you are, because that will remind the people watching that it's okay to be the whole human that we are, with the bad, with the good, with the ugly, with the beautiful, with everything. Then you sit back and you applaud it, and you start to understand the difference between the mediocrity that you were exposed to before and the greatness that you are now being exposed to, and you're having to learn the difference between the two. When you don't know the difference between mediocrity and greatness in storytelling, how can you make those adjustments? As complex human beings, storytelling is still about. I hope that this will make sense. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you so much. Please share this with other people as I'm trying to grow my audience on YouTube. My YouTube channel, which is The Art of Experiencing, which is the definition of acting, and what it became known as when this great change of acting became what people were demanding and wanting to observe from actors. Or Hey Stella podcast. Thank you so much. Kisses.